Angelus Domini nunciavit Mariae,
Et concepit de Spiritus Sancto.
Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus.
Hello, and welcome to Moments with the Master. I am here with Father Josh to discuss the readings for the fifth Sunday in St. Martin's Lent,
which is also
the feast day of the Virgin of Guadalupe. Also, it is the third Sunday, Gaudete Sunday in Advent.
Yeah, pink.
Josh, yes, pink or rose. The priest. He had a joke today because he was wearing lavender rather than pink robes and vestments, and he said that he's from Nigeria, and he said that the reason that he did that is because Jesus rose from the dead. He didn't pink from the dead.
Ho ho and ha ha. Man, it's a preacher jokes or priest jokes too.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, Josh discussed the readings for the fifth Sunday and St. Martin's Lent, and I'm going to talk about the readings for the feast day of the Virgin of Guadalupe, Our Lady of Guadalupe. So there's different ones. For the Old Testament, you can either have Zechariah chapter 2, verses 14 through 17, and I'm just going to shorten this. Various verses in Revelation 11:19, Revelation 11:12, verses 1 through 6, and also verse 10. So if you just read all of chapters 11 and 12, that's always good. The responsorial psalm is actually from Judith. It is,
which I've never read before. That's interesting. I may have to go.
It's a good one. Chapter 13, verses 18 and 19. And then there's two choices for the gospel. Luke chapter 1, verses 26 through 38, which is the Annunciation, which I talked about the other week. And Luke chapter 1, verses 39 through 47.
Which is Mary's visit to Elizabeth.
So, the Revelation verse, by the way, is where the woman is seated and she's attacked by the dragon. And there, let's see. Really quick, her description: a great sign appeared in the sky, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was with child and wailed aloud in pain as she labored to give birth. So we'll skip the rest of that for now. There's a lot of work done by certain facets of the church to try to make that about just Israel in general and not Mary in particular. I'm going to be reading the psalm. The response is, and I'm going to include this in here because this is the verse 19. This is Judith, verse 15, verse 9 is the response. You are the highest honor of our race. Blessed are you, daughter, by the Most High God, above all the women on earth. And blessed be the Lord God, the creator of heaven and earth. You are the highest honor of our race. Your deed of hope will never be forgotten by those who tell of the might of God. You are the highest honor of our race. So the reason I wanted to read that is because I have already heard a song, a Mexican mariachi song about the Virgin of Guadalupe. There are so many of these.
Oh, I bet.
Do what?
I bet.
Oh, yeah. Now, I encountered these before. I've probably talked about this on previous years, but probably last year. In my final year, I was working on my final project for the degree, and it had the suitably douchey title of the Devotion to the Virgin of Guadalupe and the Mexican Diaspora. And what I had done is I was looking, it was a folk history. So I was looking for how Mexicans continue and evidence their devotion to the Virgin of Guadalupe, and both her as a religious symbol and as a national symbol, it all gets tied up. And what was interesting was, in the process of studying and writing that paper, I came to believe that this apparition was an actual thing that actually happened, and not just some story or some pagan, lightly painted over pagan thing that happened in Aztec Mexico, Aztec era Mexico, or conquistador era Mexico, colonial era. So the as part of that, I was learning a bunch of the songs, but I also saw so many people name their children, male and female. They named them Guadalupe, and there were so many tattoos and so many cars that had giant Virgins of Guadalupe on the back. And then these songs were, there was a certain theme that went along with them. For example, the one that I hope should have played is called Virgencita Ranchera. Ranchera, I'm not sure why they use that, because I think that means like rancher, maybe of the ranch. But the words go, to you, Virgin Guadalupana, that's like her diminutive name. I want to give you a song that all of Mexico is singing and smiling. I want to tell you what you know, that we love you, that we are never sad, because our souls are on fire when we name you. Your name, we're proud of your name, and the world knows that you are our pride, and Mexico is yours. But one of the interesting things in here, let me see if I'm pretty sure that this one. Yes. Okay. So they call her Mi Virgen Ranchera, my Virgin of the Ranch, I guess. I'm confused about that one. But
would it be like Virgin of the Land?
Huh?
Could it mean Virgin of our land or something like that?
It could be. I'm guessing yes. Or of the country, but I'm not for sure. But the next one is the big one. Mi Virgen Morena. Now, Morena, and sometimes they call her Morencita, it's their term for like a brown person. It actually comes from the word more, so probably is slightly problematic, but we'll set that aside. So they're speaking specifically of her color. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
That she was the same color as they were.
Go ahead.
That she was the same color as they were. Yes.
So then there's this other song, Virgen Morenita, which maybe we'll play at the end of this video, but if it doesn't, check it out. Morenita, again, little brown virgin. Milagrosa, miraculous virgin. Virgen Morenita. And then they say, they call her, they call her Virgen India también, also meaning that she is one of them. She's an Indian, like one of them. And that was actually one of the, well, I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so let me back up for just a moment. Did you read anything that Betsy was writing after the election of Biden?
No.
Or after his inauguration? So. One of the things
Betsy is our sister, by the way.
Go ahead.
Betsy is our sister, my youngest sister, our youngest sister.
Yes. And her daughter is biracial. And one of the things that she talked a lot about was, regardless of the politics, that it meant something to her daughter to see a multiracial woman become vice president. Right. To
Kamala.
Yeah. That seems, as somebody, that's something I personally can't identify with, because there's always plenty of white dudes in power. So that's not really a thing I need to think about. But one of the problems, okay, so let me throw another thing into the mix. We both know and dislike the song, "Some people see him almond eyed.
Yes.
The baby Jesus born this night." And it goes through all this. Some people see him dark as day. Some people see him, super white. I can't remember how all the words go.
Lily white.
What?
Yeah, the words were lily white.
Lily white, yes. I'd forgotten that. Anyway, this song is supposed to be meaning, and it is true that when you go across the world, you will see Jesus portrayed in different ways. And I'm actually kind of okay with that, kind of. But, Asian people, not knowing exactly what a Jewish man looks like, they paint him vaguely Asian. And he looks vaguely African, depending on, the representations in Ethiopia and sub-Saharan Africa. But one of the issues is that Europe has played such a dominant role in Roman Catholicism, at least, that there are a preponderance of lily white images of Jesus and of Mary. Do what?
There is a TV show, I think it's on Hulu. It's really good. It's called Reservation Dogs, and it is it's based on an Indian reservation. I don't remember where it's supposed to be, but and so almost the entire cast are actual Native Americans. It is extremely funny, very interesting, just as a look into that society, because that's kind of part. In fact, I think even the writer and director are Native American. But there's a couple of scenes where, because there's a church and several of these people, they have the one picture that you see over and over is the one where Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane and he's kneeling on the rock, right? And so he's got long brown hair and he's white. Jesus. He's as white as I am. And so there's like several times in the show where they'll be like, "See you later, Dad. See you later, Mom. Bye, white Jesus." And and it is hilarious and yet sad.
Yes, exactly. So, but see, part of me, okay, like in the Book of Kells, and if anybody listens to this, I love the Book of Kells. Jesus in the Book of Kells, I mean, he's got blonde, curly hair, and then when he's a baby, and then when he's being crucified, his hair's like either blonde or red and still curly.
Because he looks like them.
It's not very true to what he would have looked like. But nobody looking at the Book of Kells would have mistaken that for a literal picture of Jesus.
Right.
Okay. So at the church that I go to currently, it's like all super European Jesuses and Marys. So imagine the Aztec people, the Mexica, in 1521. Columbus sailed the ocean in 1492. Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and 30 years later, partly through technological superiority, mostly through smallpox.
Yeah.
The Spanish had decimated the Aztec and the Maya and the Inca and most of North America, the North American tribes as well. And they just been wiped out, and most of their old culture had largely been wiped out. I'm not one to romanticize the Aztecs. If you have never had a chance to look at or listen to the Aztec death whistle,
oh my gosh, it's horrifying.
Yeah, it's horrible. It is horrible. That tells you mostly what you need to know. So then there's the Spanish. They're to some. I mean, they're enslaving the Indian peoples, but they're also trying to evangelize them. And so what you have here are a bunch of largely white Europeans trying to give Christianity to these people that have just been crushed. And they're trying to do it in Spanish and Latin, And so the people are, they're not really receiving it that much. So in 1521, I think it was 1521, this one man whose name was Kuyutla, which means beloved eagle speaks. He is converted to Christianity, and he takes the name Juan Diego. Juan is John, and the symbol of John is the eagle. Don't know if that was intentional or not, but that, I feel like that is significant. Also because on the Mexican flag, now this relates to an Aztec legend, but the symbol in the center of the flag is an eagle on a cactus, because that was how it was signified where they were supposed to settle. So eagles important there, but also important in Christianity and in the Old Testament. Okay, so I'm going to call him Juan Diego now because the other one's too hard to say. He's walking by this hill called Tepeyac, which the Spanish are calling Guadalupe, but Tepeyac means like hill of the little nose or something, hill of the nose. And he hears a voice calling out to him in Nahuatl, which is their native language. And he goes up on the mountain and he sees Mary there, but it's not European Mary that they would have seen all of the other places. My guess is it was just Jewish Mary.
Right.
But Jewish Mary would have been
looked very much like them. Yeah.
Would have looked a lot like them. But in addition to looking a lot like them, she was speaking their language. She was talking to him in a way that he could understand.
Right.
And she tells him that go ahead.
Well, you use the word the heart language. It's why Wycliffe Bible translators is so, like, their whole mission is to go to these obscure tribes, learn their language, create an alphabet, and then teach them to read in their language rather than trying to teach them English or Spanish or whatever it is that is available. And many of these tribes know other languages, but hey, we want to present the gospel to them in their heart language.
I'm going to pause. Well, no, I'll get back to that later. Yeah. So Mary tells Juan Diego to one of the conquered peoples, one of the Indians, one of the oppressed. She tells him, I want you to go to the bishop and give him this message. So Juan Diego goes to the bishop, and shock of all shocks, the bishop does
what you been smoking, yo?
What?
Nothing. Bad joke.
Okay. The bishop doesn't believe him. So he's passing by Tepeyac the next day, and he hears her again, and she tells him again. And so he goes to the bishop again, and the bishop still doesn't believe him. So the third time, getting very biblical here, he goes by the hill, and Mary tells him again, and he says, choose someone else. But unlike Moses, it's not because he can't speak. It's because I'm just a slave, he says. I'm just a slave. I'm just an Indian. Choose someone else that he will actually listen to, because he's not going to listen to me. And she says, I'm going to give you a sign. And so she fills up his cloak, his tunic that he's wearing, his tilma. I can't remember what it's called in Nahuatl. She fills it up with roses that she has plucked herself, and he carries those to the bishop. He carries them to the bishop, and then as he pours them out on the ground and gives the message, they see that her image has been perfectly represented on the tilma in a way that Juan Diego could not have done it. And then they listen to him. And
there was something about the flowers, like they were from Europe and not from...
They were from Spain. They were from, I think they were from Guadalupe in Spain.
Right. Yeah, they weren't native.
They were not flowers. You're right. They were not flowers that would have appeared and that would have been growing in that area. Certainly not in that proliferation. They build the the church. I wish they had left the tilma there, but they ended up moving it to Mexico City, to the cathedral there. And then they published a book in Nahuatl, Nikan Mopua. Anyway, and they have to justify the fact that they have written it in Nahuatl in the beginning by saying, among other things, even Pilate put the title of Jesus in 3 languages on the cross. So, this one would have been, I assume, and it would have been preserved also in Latin and Spanish. That event was pivotal in the missionary work of in Mexico. It was the turning point when everyone, all of the Indians, all of the Aztec, converted to Christianity. And they did it because someone who looked like them and who spoke to them in their heart language came to tell them, the queen herself came to tell them the good news. That is one of the reasons that I love Latino Christianity, is because I feel like it is the closest thing, like when we say Christianity, I think it is the closest thing to Celtic Christianity from, the 500s that we have on earth today. It is fierce. It permeates every part of their lives. There's not really a dividing line between sacred and secular. Everything that I learned about Celtic Christianity, I recognized in how Hispanic people, how Latinos practice their faith. It's very different from me. I'm very, but I should also say, in defense of the bishop, by the way, one of the things that I do appreciate about Catholicism is that they do test things. They do, they don't just have saints appear out of nowhere. They have like a system and a process that they go through and all of that. And they're actually they're not just, people tend to think of Catholics as lining up to worship the face of Jesus that appeared in a piece of toast.
Right.
But the church is not like that. And I'm not like that either. I probably would have also needed the roses and the tilma before I would have listened. Not because he was Indian, but because I'm skeptical.
Right.
I doubt that was the only reason the bishop didn't listen to him, but that's neither here nor there. I don't know his heart or his mind. He did eventually listen. So this is the thing that I feel like we may have lost. I remember being in prison. I tell so many prison stories. I remember being in prison and finding out that one of the Latino gentlemen, although I'm not sure that that's the appropriate word, you'll figure it out in a second, that I was helping to write letters to his family and stuff. I found out that he was functionally illiterate in both English and Spanish.
Oh, wow.
That he was speaking some leftover Mayan that's still in like the outskirts of Guatemala. And when he came here, he ended up learning Spanish because they just shunted him off with all the other Spanish-speaking people, assuming that that's what he was going to be speaking. So he knew a little bit of Spanish, but his heart language was something else entirely. And there were actually people who still spoke a form of Aztec. That happens quite often in Central and South America, that some of those ancient languages are still preserved in the places far, far away from the cities. And it hurts me, for example, that we're like losing Navajo and Cherokee and all of the North American tongues, that they're 99% gone. I don't know why there isn't a greater push to preserve these things by Christians. That, by the way, is something else that Christians used to do, Celtic Christians used to do especially, was to preserve even pagan things, pagan languages, pagan stories.
Right.
They drank them up and wrote them down, and if it weren't for them, we would not know any of the Viking tales. There would be just some leftover carvings on rocks, and that would be all that we know. We wouldn't know anything about Celtic mythology if it weren't for Irish monks. We would have lost significant chunks of Greek philosophy if it weren't for, not Irish necessarily, some of them, but for Christian monks who preserved those things. Mm-hmm. Because they saw the value in it. That's number one for me. And then number two is, in these songs of rejoicing that Mexican people sing today, it is because the Mother of God came to them in a way that they recognized, in a language that they recognized, and said, you are important and we love you, and I choose, this sounds like Pokemon, but I choose you. I choose you to be my messenger to the rich and the powerful and the European. I love the Feast Day of Guadalupe because it contains everything that we are supposed to have to be real, not just Celtic Christians, but just Christians.
Right.
And that is what I had to say.
Awesome. I don't have anything to add.
Okay. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I give you my heart, my soul, and my strength. Make me a good man.
Amen.